Okay, so I just read this story, so I'm going to kind of go through and put some sequence words down that we noticed in this story and just how much more the story made sense as we were going. So you are going to use these sequence words when you write your own life story. So we said once was one. So I'm going back through the book to get some more sequence words that might be helpful. Finally, talked about that one. Sometimes finally can be on a page earlier in the story if it's like one event and then finally something happened when that event was over. So they give specific time frames. So they put 3 days. He said the word third nightfall. So he used like before dawn. Finally, again, he said 3 more days. He used the word daybreak. That's the beginning of the day. He used the words then. After that. Next. First is a good one. Last or lastly. Those are most of them. So those are some good sequence words that you can use in your timeline. Okay, so you should have this paper in your packet. So I'm going to show you what I put on my timeline. Now my timeline is going to look different than yours, right? Because I'm older, so I've done just some different things than you. So I'm going to read mine, and then I'm going to give you some examples of what you can put on your timeline. So your timeline was when you were born. You don't remember that, but that had to happen in order. So you can use these little boxes too. But you don't have to, because you might not be able to fill up all this, and that's okay. So born November 16th, I put my year. So on my timeline, I didn't put years. I just kind of did it by different phases of my life. My little sister was born when I was 2.5. Then I started school. I put when my first niece was born when I was in 4th grade. And I put that I graduated 8th grade and went to high school. I switched churches, so that was a big thing for me. When I was in high school, I played lacrosse and I broke my foot. Then I graduated high school and I went to Indiana Wesleyan and studied education. And I put that I made good friends. And I moved back to Noblesville to work in Carmel. Started out a new church, joined a small group. Then I got to start at Horizon a few years later. After that, I started dating Devontae. My dad passed away while I was dating Devontae a couple years ago. Then there was this pandemic that started. Then during the pandemic, I put that Devontae and I got engaged. And then I put right now, e-learning through the pandemic. All right, so you could put that on your timeline too. Pandemic is part of your life now. So here's some examples. I'll hold them up and you can screenshot this if you would like to have some examples, because you're like, I'm not sure what has happened in my life. So examples, the year and the place you were born, so like city. Maybe you could put your first spoken word, how old you were when you started to walk, your age when you lost your first tooth, if you had a sibling, the date and location of your first school experience, you could put your most memorable vacation on there, if you had a serious injury, when that happened, if you started sports, when that happened, If you played instruments, when did you start doing that? Concerts, sporting events you've been to, really cool events that you've been to, different countries if you've been to a different country, if you've lost a pet or a grandparent or a parent, adoption, if you were adopted, the day that happened or the day that you moved in with the family that adopted you. I think that was such a cool part of your story. If you moved, when you moved homes or schools, any big milestones, so birth of a sibling or birth of a niece or nephew, if you gained a sister-in-law or brother-in-law from a sibling getting married. So any milestones, anything big, this is your time to write about you. Okay, so today what you're doing is you're doing this. And I want you to put at least, let's say 8. Put at least 8 events. If you have more, awesome. But I'm asking for 8 events for you to write on there. You can even draw pictures on your timeline if you want. I chose to write on mine, but that is up to you. Okay, so this is your time to just kind of think about your timeline and what has happened in your life and kind of pause and take a minute of some big events that have happened. And then we're going to do something with this tomorrow. Okay, so fill out your timeline and then get your storyline organized. And tomorrow you're going to do something with your timeline.